Okay, picture this. You wake up, completely disoriented. Your head is absolutely pounding, and you get this sinking, immediate realization that your life is in total peril. You have literally zero memory of who you are. But guess what? You have to make a choice right now. A choice that's going to dictate whether you end up dead, rotting in jail, or running for your life. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're taking a super fun, immersive dive into the mechanics of a gamebook mystery, specifically unpacking the brilliant source material, Was It You? Seriously, buckle up, because your choices are about to matter immensely.
So we are dropped right into the protagonist's shoes. You just woke up, the room is spinning, as the text so vividly puts it, donkeys on a pogo stick, my head hurts. You've apparently suffered this massive head wound from crashing into a glass coffee table. You look around and your house is just a sea of generic brown furniture. Kinda weird, right? But way worse than the blood on your fingers is what's lying right there on your lounge rug. It's a dead body. A guy in a sharp suit and shiny leather shoes, just bleeding out.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this exact moment is where the magic of the gamebook format just grabs you by the collar. You can hear police sirens wailing in the distance, and they're getting closer, fast. You've left DNA all over the sink, you've got footprints tracking through the blood, and you have absolutely no memory of what went down. So, what do? You can't just passively read the next page, you have to make an immediate, super high-stakes decision. But hey, before we start exploring the crazy branching paths of your potential escape, let's take a quick step back to understand the actual architecture of a gamebook. Section 1. A brief history of gamebooks.
To really appreciate the pressure cooker we just landed in, we kind of need to look at how this whole interactive format evolved. You see, entertainment is always trying to become more immersive. Think back 100 years to the 1920s. Families all huddled around the radio. Then, the 1930s roll around, and tech advances bring affordable paperback books right to the masses. After that, we get TVs, we get computers. But the real game changer? That happened in the 1970s with Dungeons & Dragons. It was huge. Inspired by that, in the 1980s, Edward Packard and R.A. Montgomery decided to create a D&D-style experience for the solo adventurer. Over just 10 years, they churned out nearly 200 of these interactive books. They literally birthed the solo gamebook craze.
So what is a gamebook exactly? Basically, it completely shatters the old-school concept of reading a story from beginning to end. You aren't just sitting back watching some fictional detective solve a crime. You are the detective, or, well, in our current situation, the potential murderer. You define your own journey. You hit the end of a chapter, you make a choice, and then you flip to a specific page to find out your fate. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the contrast in how we actually consume these things today. The author of our source text makes this great point. A whole generation grew up keeping 5 different fingers jammed between the cream-colored pages of physical books. Using your fingers as physical save slots. It's the purest journey. Plus, honestly, a real book just smells nicer than a smartphone. But we've got to admit, modern digital versions are pretty great too. You get fun digital badges for unlocking rare endings, and you don't have to hunt around for page numbers. But whether it's paper or pixels, both mediums totally nail that core mechanic of choice.
Section 2. The blank slate mechanic.
Alright, so we get the format. But how does Was It You weaponize this structure? It uses this brilliant device called the blank slate mechanic, amnesia. Look at this wild list of unknown variables you're dealing with. Because you've got this severe head wound, you are a total blank slate. You have no idea who that dead guy is. Did you kill him? No clue. As you wander your own house, looking at photos, you start wondering, is Rory even my real son? Who is this Kate lady waving at me? Why is every single piece of furniture in my house so incredibly beige? By stripping away your memory, the author essentially forces you into a corner where you have to make blind, gut instinct decisions right out of the gate. Every single choice is a massive gamble.
Moving on to Section 3. Navigating the branching paths.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens once you start making those gambles. The whole narrative splinters. The underlying architecture of the book actually tracks the type of choices you're making. It's almost like it's psychoanalyzing you. Are your choices logical? Are they curious? Or are they naive to how the real world actually works? Based on that, you head toward 3 main endings, plus a couple of hybrid endings. The story can wrap up at any point depending entirely on your behavioral patterns.
Let's apply this mechanic back to your very first major crisis. Remember the sirens. They're getting louder. You look down and you've got blood on your boring, generic sneakers. Turns out, the dead man on your rug is named Gordon Meyer. And the cops, they are pulling into your street right now.
Let's move to and see how this builds your very first branching decision tree.
Check out your immediate options. Do you run for it, jump the fence, and become a fugitive over in Chapter 2? Do you take the logical route and wait for the cops at Chapter 24, hoping you can plead your innocence? Do you get curious, sneak into the neighbor's shed at Chapter 3 and spy on the crime scene? Or do you do the incredibly naive thing and try to roll a dead body up in a rug at Chapter 11 to hide the evidence? Whatever you pick here literally rewrites the reality of the story.
Here is the absolute craziest part. Depending on which path you just took, the actual truth about the dead man changes. It's wild. In one timeline, Gordon Meyer is your absolute best friend from college. In another branch, he's a bitter rival who tracked you down after a high school reunion to ruin your life. In a super dark timeline, he's actually your assigned hit target. And in what is definitely the most absurd path, he's just the tragic victim of a freak accident where a bowling ball fell off a cupboard and bashed his head in while you weren't looking. The facts of the universe mold to fit your choices. Let's walk through one of the most intense branches, the one involving your son, Rory. Say you make some curious choices. Step 1. You find this hidden, opened red envelope from your deceased wife, Carla. Step 2. You go confront Rory at his high school. Step 3. Rory is terrified and tells you he is going to frame you for Gordon's murder to save his own skin. But why? Step 4 hits you like an absolute freight train. You realize Gordon might actually be Rory's biological father. Bam! You just walked into a devastating domestic thriller, all because you followed your curiosity.
But hey, what if you went down a totally different path? You might bump into Kate Bringle. At first glance, she wears frumpy clothes, sensible boots, limp hair. She just seems like an innocent, maybe slightly annoying local school teacher, right? But if you navigate down a different branch, boom, her identity completely flips. It turns out she's a ruthless drug-running operative working for this big city syndicate boss named Dame Sophia Morda, using high school kids to push her product.
And if you trust Kate enough to follow her into a diner to get out of the rain, you unlock probably the biggest twist in the entire book. You ask her, why is Gordon dead? She just looks at you deadpan and says, you did it, because I told you to. Suddenly, all those weird little clues make sense. Your house full of beige furniture, your unremarkable sneakers. You didn't just have terrible taste. It was all a carefully constructed cover. You aren't a boring suburban dad. You are a highly skilled, cold-blooded hitman.
Which brings us to our final section, what will you choose? Every single decision you make, every page you turn, yanks you deeper into these radically different realities. You can be the unlucky bystander to a bowling ball accident, a betrayed father, or a literal assassin. So the crucial point is, the power to decide who you are lies completely in your hands. Do you sit there in the diner, accept your cold-blooded past, and trust Kate as your handler, or do you leave your slice of pie on the table, bolt out into the rain, and forge a brand new life? The beauty of the gamebook is that there's no right answer. There are only the consequences of your own logic, your curiosity, or your naivety. So let me ask you, what will you choose?